The man sitting to your left, you guys played in a development league premiership together 5 years ago, and now you find yourselves here in the top tier of the competition as captain and coach. Again, it's for all the, I guess, the steadiness that the Box Hill Football Club's had over the last few years. It's amazing how the generational change continues to sweep through VFL clubs.
Yeah, it is, and we've been fortunate to keep guys like David Mirra around, and you know, it's a cyclical process. You know, every 2 or 3 years there's a group of players that no doubt look for further opportunities. But to be able to keep the calibre of players such as David and Liam Tobin and the likes is certainly a key fillip to why we've been successful, I guess, over the last 3 years. And geez, I'd love to be still kicking the footy around with David, but I know my time's done. But I'm glad I'm able to you know, do something further with the football club that I really enjoy, love being around.
Colo, another club, another grand final. Without any jokes though, dating back to 85 and 97, again, it's been amazing, I guess, the change that the competition's had in your various chapters of involvement over time. How does this week compare to looking back on some of those memories?
Yeah, look, this one, it's really special, obviously, when the Williamstown approached me to coach. You know, the first standalone team in recent times of 14 years. So the motivation is really high to be able to get there as a standalone footy club, to be old enough in the room to understand the history of Victorian footy that I do, and I'm definitely a student of the pathway of the olden days, and you know, a real big occasion for us as a standalone footy club.
I think we've got some questions from the floor, and who better to kick it off than the Sunday Herald Sun's man, and probably someone who's been covering the competition longer than anyone else in Howard Lee.
Nigel Carmody, former Collingwood VFL captain. Coach Scott.
You're not interviewing me, Howard. There's four very good people to my left.
Okay, Marco, you've been very helpful this year, as Andy has. Marco, there's no flashback to last year's grand final. It's all white. David Mirra told me you're not going to mention that pre-game.
No, I mean, there's probably only half a dozen players who played in that grand final, so it would be, you know, for 20 other guys who are part of the squad, you know, it doesn't mean anything to them. So perhaps individually to those 5, 6, 7, 8 odd players who played in that might be an individual driver for them, but I don't think there's any need for me to bring it up, and totally different side that we're playing against as well.
Good stuff. Andy, followed the history of, and Ned Kelly was a Williamstown great, wasn't he, from the past? We looked up his history.
Well, I mean, our Trevor Monty.
Yes, the general president.
A little bit left of centre with some of his thoughts. Believes that Ned played with his helmet, centre-half forward for the footy club. But look, the important thing about the Williamstown Footy Club, it's one of the oldest football clubs in the history of football. And, you know, its pathway could have actually been into the VFL and into the AFL, but chose not to. It's had some of the most famous sporting administrators, and I think that that's lost on the current thoughts in regards to Victorian footy and the dominance that we see in the AFL. But you know, people need to understand that this is one of the oldest football clubs in Australia, and it has a proud history, and one in which has seen some of the great footballers and administrators of Aussie rules, you know, represent this footy club. And you know, we have a great captain, we have a great leadership group, you know, we have a great board, and that is really passionate about making sure that Williamstown Football Club has a long history in football to come.
Marco, Victorian Football League Grand Final, we've got a couple of Kiwis in your squad who've come through the New Zealand system. Tell us about how they've developed and what we might expect from those two options in the ground on the weekend.
Yeah, obviously Kurt Headley and Shem Tupu. I mean, Shem, first, yeah, he's come a long way. He played the first half of the season in the development league, and again was learning the caper. He'd only been playing football for 4 or 5 years, so it was a new ball game for him. But his development throughout, not only this year, but you know, the 4 years that he's been trying out with us has been you know, exponential. He's developed as much as anyone, and obviously he's played a big part in our success over the last 6 to 8 weeks. So yeah, we'll be looking for him to obviously play a big part in our forward line. And then at the other end is Kurt, as he said. He's a down defender. He's hard as nails, and he just loves the physical contact. And you know, obviously a rugby league background, he enjoys that contact side of things. But his ability to read the footy now and execute his skills has come a long way as well. So both of those two guys will play a big and important part on the weekend.
Marco, man, did you cross paths in Adelaide, did you?
I don't think I did. I think I retired and you came the year
Central
after.
Districts in West Adelaide?
Yeah, but we'll go back. Andrew actually was my year 8 homeroom teacher at Marston College, so we've got a bit of history there. Show your age, Andy, or mine, I'm not sure which one there, but yeah, so we do have a bit of history.
Yeah, he didn't use the strap, did he?
It was still in vogue back then, but I don't think I got
Because he
one.
said yesterday he doesn't swear. David, you're the most experienced player in this grand final. How many grand finals, or how many finals have you played in the VFL?
This will be my 4th grand final in total, including a development one in 2010 and 3rd one in a row since 2013. So, yeah, it's been great to be able to play in finals and grand finals and experience some success along the way. And looking forward to getting out there on the weekend.
Then, Jolley, what's it mean for Williamstown to break that grand final hoodoo, 2003 Brad Gotch, last premiership? Can you break it on Sunday? It's your speed versus their tools. That's my observation.
What was that, sorry, Howard?
I believe Boxall have got the bigger team physically in height and weight, but Williamstown got the speed and the run on football.
Yeah, I suppose that's a good way of putting it. As far as the hoodoo goes, I'm not too sure. Preliminary finals are always a bit of a hurdle no matter what side you play for. So to give ourselves a chance over the last few years to at least get in a grand final, I think it's a pretty good effort. Now we've just simply been able to provide ourselves with the opportunity to possibly win a grand final. Like most of the commentary's been, 2 contrasting game styles, very strong, very tall, Box Hill side. Now I suppose if our strength may be in our speed of ball movement and things like that, well so be it. But it'll be an interesting encounter, no doubt anyway.
This is a question for Ben and Andrew. You guys were 27 points up on the weekend and things were going your way. Suddenly Essendon come back at you and it's a ball game again at 3/4 time. Now we know, we talk about previous history and there's demons on the shoulder from preliminary finals, etc. We listened into Andrew's speech at 3/4 time and he said you've got to go out and win the big game. As a group, you guys must take enormous confidence from the mental toughness that you guys showed to steady yourselves and then go on with the job and get the game back on your own terms in the last quarter.
Yeah, look, a 7-point deficit at 3/4 time, not the end of the world no matter what game you're playing in, but you're right, it was just the fact that we had to win the game. We couldn't rest on our haunches and let the result take care of itself. We had to go out there and actually make a bit of a difference ourselves as a group, because as soon as Bello said those final words, there wasn't too much he was going to do in the next 30 minutes, so the onus was placed again on the players if we wanted to make something out of this year, and we made that conscious decision to try and do that.
Cole, they must have been very proud of your team in that last quarter because they did show amazing grit, didn't they?
Yeah, over the last 2 years, and I'm sure Peter would even vouch for it, and I was complimenting Peter, because he was the Williamstown coach previously and has put a lot of good work in it. Cam and Ben and quite a few of the other players that, as a current coach and reaping the rewards from. So at 3/4 time, I had firm belief in which we just need to get back on track, and particularly our mental state of mind. There's so many footballers in the room that understand that when the opposition are getting a run on, how defensive you can become. And, so we just need to change the frame of our mind at 3/4 time. That's the beauty of breaks sometimes, and that's the beauty of our leadership. And really our leadership really stood up. Ben was amazing in the last quarter, Cam Lockwood, Nick Meese, the older players in our group understood that message. We've spoken about that message and what that means in regards to the footy front, how to execute, simple things from our kick-outs under pressure, right to our stoppages and structures. So real credit to the players. Ben knew what we meant, Cam knew what we meant, and they went out and executed.
Marco, similar story for you guys. You showed great grit. You had a great start against Sandringham and they were coming at you and they were coming at you. They actually got there, they caught you again. Your side showed great grit in the last quarter to steady and win.
Yeah, and preliminary finals they are a grind, and we knew that was going to be the case. And had we kicked a little bit straighter in the first quarter, perhaps it would have been a little bit more difficult for Sandy to come back and fight. But I've had great confidence in the side all year to be able to do that, so that wasn't going to be any different just because of the occasion. So again, kudos goes to the players really. Once you send them out after 3/4 time, it's really left to their own devices, and we've practiced things throughout the year that we're able to put into effect on the day, and again, that goes to the boys and being able to put that into effect.
Dave, one for you. Structurally, from a defensive perspective, we spoke earlier about how Williamstown love to push up the field and then they use their speed to try and turn the opposition defence around. We saw them do it effectively against Essendon. As a leader in the back six for Box Hill, you've obviously got to not only worry about your own game, but everything else that's going on around you. How do you set up against that sort of slingshot attack that Williamstown like to employ?
I think it's really important from a team defensive point of view, particularly if our forwards can apply as much pressure as possible, our midfielders can get in and stop the opposition and delay them as much as possible. It helps us as a back six out. So it's not only just on what we can do as a back six to stop their forwards, but what's happening up the field as well. So we'll be looking for that full team defence.
One last question for both the coaches from me. The fact that there's that uncertainty around selection at the moment obviously creates unique circumstances for both of you on the Hawthorn side of things, whether Hawthorn win or lose. Do you both have two sets of game plans that you start to develop during the week, or is it more just a question of slight tweaks and slight amendments? Firstly, Marco, and then Andrew, if you can answer the same question.
Yeah, look, in terms of, if we lose the players, we've certainly got a plan B in place, and does that change the game style or game plan? Probably not. We've got a style of game that has held us in good stead for 26 weeks of the year, and it'll be a like for like in terms of player-wise, and we keep spruiking that, replace one side with another, and they'll play a similar style of play. We're just looking for them to play their role, and it won't change too drastically depending on who we've got.
Definitely, Rocket would rather Gary Ablett play in his team than, maybe another young Gold Coast player. And definitely, the players that are eligible that have played senior AFL football, if they're absent, in regards to soldiers, I would still rather the Greek Achilles fighting for me than maybe his little partner Bert that I don't know of. So I think that definitely the talent, we should plan for their best team, and that's what we're planning for. And to the other boys that may replace it, one of the great things that Box Hill Hawthorn have, and with the coach in regards to great systems, he's a really good coach. I really admire what he's doing, and the systems that he's got in place. They definitely, and Marco, I know the talent is a little bit different in regards to what comes in and out of the team, and so that'll be really interesting little side story going into the game.